All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law on Kirk's Law Corner. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Wait for some people to get on here. Don't have any people on right now. What's going on out there? Nobody's waiting. Oh, one on Facebook. Oh, we got 8 on YouTube. Oh, 4 on Facebook, 10 on YouTube. Takes a little bit for the notification to go out. Hi, Tabby. Hi, Jacqueline. Hello, Heather. Mari. Surprised you're on here watching tonight, huh? CC up there in Alaska. Is it still cold up there? Hey, Rex. What's happening, brother? So, has anybody made any connections with anyone else in different states? From the same state, I should say. Different state than Idaho. You guys need to be starting to make those connections. Oh, what a good weekend, huh? No, I don't get to see anybody. I get to see chat on 2 different machines and 2 different chat logs. So hard to keep up with both of them, especially when I'm running through stuff I don't really pay attention. So what's the temp up there, CC in Alaska? Hey, there's some people in New York that want to do some stuff. I know people over there in New York. 70 above on the porch. Snow is 4 foot deep. What the heck is that? Wow. Well, it's still not higher than room temperature in Alaska. Oh, wait. Right? I actually just read that again earlier today. Hardwick versus County of Orange, Rican. Uh, Any official with an IQ greater than room temperature in Alaska knows that the conduct at the center of this case violates both state and federal law. Cannot lie, blah, 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 blah. Separate parent from the child. Anyways, it is a great quote. I'm falling on the floor laughing on that one, rolling on the floor laughing, however you do that one. But yeah. Oh no, I'm telling you, there's some New Yorkers out there that are wanting to do some stuff in New York. Trust me. All right, so I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody had a good weekend, and we're ready to rock and roll for a new week. I know my team and I are very excited in what our endeavors and what we're doing and what we've taken on. And do what you can over there, but we're going to be doing this for everybody. So starting in Idaho, of course. We're cooking right along with the paperwork. Like this close. There you go. Trisha Forbes, she's out there in New York, but she's on Facebook. Trisha, you had to jump over on YouTube. Tabby, New York 20. Trisha Forbes out of New York. She's a go-getter out there. She's trying to rip things up. Hey, Michael, how are you, brother? So thank you for all the shares out there, the likes, the follows, all the thumbs up, and the subscriptions over here on YouTube. Appreciate it. Definitely the sharing, especially the one I did on Friday. I actually want to relabel that, and I'll put that in the playlist. Are you being human trafficked? So for those of you that didn't catch Friday night fun night, I covered human trafficking part B. Okay, the money side, and I laid it out pretty good. I mean, there's quite a bit more to it. If anybody wants to go down that rabbit hole further than like what I have, but the gist of it is what I put in the Friday night fun night. So share that one to your family, your friends. Share that out there, because that is the one that is going to wake people up to realize that we're all being human trafficked, and that there's two parts. There's two parts to human trafficking. Most everybody I've talked to about human trafficking, they automatically think the sexual side of things. But there is a part B. So, hey, Mark, how you doing, brother? So most of you know now, my digital side of things for donations is down. No PayPal, no Cash App. So I do have Venmo, but as far as I know, that goes through PayPal. So I don't know how that works, but I'm going to look back into that and see if I can't set it up to go directly to my bank account, and we'll see how that works. But for right now, the only other way to help support the channels here and is through the office, through the snail mail. And if you'd like to help with that, I greatly appreciate it. The office address 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho 83704. And thank you for the most recent donations over there. I got those today. So we're going to jump into a little bit of history of law, the founding documents, which is going back to the fundamental law, the law of creation. And we have to know these things, because this is our nation at its roots when it was created, right? Because I don't know how many people are aware, but we created a new form of government that never existed before. Okay. So this is all brand new at that particular point in time. And it is, in fact, the best form of government on the planet. But the problem is, it's been hijacked. And it's up to us, right? It's up to us to do something about it. We need to figure out what the fundamental law is, what the law of this nation called America is, because we have a law of the nation. It's called our ideology. And that particular document, one of my most favorite documents, it's the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Let's see how many Virginians we got here. Now, they won't let us see from here the Virginia Constitution. The draft is there. Let's see. Where's the Virginia? There's Virginia Declaration of Rights. Now, just so we know, I can show you just a little tidbit of why the Virginia Declarations of Rights is so important. It is laying down the law of this nation. It's part of how we establish the ideology. Now, when we look at the Sixth Amendment here, right, right to a trial by jury, we look at the right to a speedy trial, source and rationale. Now, this is the annotated Constitution. Okay. Right, Mark. Reading the Organic Act for the territory. Mark is saying out here on YouTube that he liked the Idaho one. He went and found Washington's Organic Act, and very eye-opening it is, because it lays out the limitations of powers and how the form of government is supposed to be by Congress pursuant to Article 4, Section 3. But let's take a look at this. This is the Sixth Amendment, right to speedy trial, source and rationale. So logic and reason here. What's the source? Well, the Magna Carta. Why the Magna Carta? Because it's the Great Charter of Liberty for all English-speaking nations. We shall not deny or delay justice and right, neither the end of which is justice nor the mean, but whereby we may attain to the end, and that is the law. The first part of this is, to no man will we sell, to no man will we deny nor defer or delay justice and right. So what we're looking at here is, again, the Sixth Amendment, or Article the 6th of the Bill of Rights. This is called succession of law, rights as the law. So this started, the right to speedy trial, started with the Magna Carta. Much of the same language was incorporated into the Virginia Declaration of Rights of 1776. Okay. As we can see, this is a very crucial document in the succession of law. As they're saying right here, this is the path, right? And from there into the Sixth Amendment. This is why I want to go back over this Virginia Declaration of Rights, because This is laying down the fundamental principles of law and our ideology for the nation called America. That's why this document is listed in succession of law of rights. All of these rights we have right now. These rights cannot be diminished because this is part of the law of the nation called America. Them fundamental law, fundamental principles of law. And it also is part of our form of government. This is the formation, laying down the law. Because remember, declarations lay down the law. Law is that which is laid down, ordained, or established. So, fundamentally and principally, we know that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. See the verbiage there? It's a little bit different. But see, this is part of what they do. The word salad, the bar word salad. They will try to diminish it by eliminating the words. And, that's what they've done. When we read this, it's a little bit different. Idaho's not too bad, but it's not complete. Here they're calling them inalienable rights of man. All men are by nature free and equal and have certain inalienable, no, they're unalienable rights, among which are enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, pursuing happiness, and securing safety. So it's relatively close. But they leave out the, when they enter into a state of society, that we cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity. It just can't be given away at all. Because this comes from God. Okay? That all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people. Now, here's one they like to leave out. That magistrates are their trustees and servants, and at all times amenable to them, to the people, not to persons. That government is, or ought to be, instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community, of all the various modes and forms of government. That is best, right, of all of them, which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety, and is most effectually secured against the danger of what? Put this one in your books, folks. Maladministration. And that whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to these purposes, a majority of the community hath an indubitable, unalienable, and indefeasible right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public weal. Now, here's the thing. We already did that. That's basically what they were doing back then. And they were setting it up here, stating that this is what we're doing. We have this right. We have this power. And we're tired of being ruled. And that we're basically laying down the law here, that we have an indubitable and unalienable and indefeasible right to reform, alter, or abolish it, however we judge most conducive. And that's what they did. Now, once that was created, now we can't be really changing that too much. And more specifically, what I'm referring to here is public servants can't change that. It would have to be voted on by the people. And even then, not for light and transient causes. No. What our founders created here is a beautiful form of government when it functions in accordance with the law of its creation. Okay. So this is why we have to go back to some of these fundamental principles. And this one right here kicks the crap out of the bar, as well as these interagencies that Attorney General Barr talked about. And what my team and I are finding is all these associations, not just the Bar Association, not just the Health Association, but there's a crap ton of them. And they fall under these, oh, well, these are self-governing agencies. They're not governmental agencies. No, that is fundamentally altering our form of government. So we're going to return to some fundamental principles of law, real law, that no man or set of men are entitled to exclusive or separate emoluments or privileges from the community, but in consideration of public services, which not being descendable, neither ought the office of magistrate, legislator, or judge be hereditary. Now, see, back then, it was like kept in the family. Oh, well, your dad was a judge or your uncle was a judge. Well, now you're going to be a judge. You're going to be a magistrate. You're going to be a legislator. But what we're actually talking about is the bar, that no set of men are entitled to exclusive or separate emoluments. No, you can't license the practice of law. And we're not supposed to have that in our form of government. Like all these other associations, that's a set of men that are exercising powers like their government. And the thing is it's like, interagency, like Attorney General Barr called them. The legislature creates them, and then they're supposed to be over in the executive branch to execute the law of its own creation. But then they start making their own rules. They make their own law. No. That's not how our form of government is supposed to work. So this is one of those main fundamental principles that ties back into the first fundamental principle, that we're all free and equal. Because if we're all free and equal, no man or set of men are entitled to have any other special stuff, special powers. Because government is supposed to be receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. And this is one of those limitations in the law of this nation called America. Now, as we know, in a monarchy, that the legislative and executive powers were kind of all jumbled together with the judicial, the king's bench. So you have, in a monarchy, you got the king, the prince, parliament, and the bar, 4 pillars. Well, we only have 3. But the thing is this was the part of separating the 2. But this is what we've turned back into. I mean, our legislature meets, But then it's, oh, we're the executive branch and we're submitting our rules for resubmission. No. Now, even our own Idaho Attorney General has admitted that, hey, that's not a proper function of the executive branch here. He recognized and stated to the GOP there that, this is not how it's supposed to work, that the legislature has the power to create, and the executive is just going to have to deal with it. But do you think they do it? No. So, that the legislative and executive powers of the state should be separate and distinct from the judicative, and that the members of the two first, the legislative and executive, may be restrained from oppression by feeling and participating the burthens of the people. They should, at fixed periods, be reduced to a private station, return into that body from which they were originally taken, and the vacancies be supplied by frequent, certain, and regular elections, in which all or any part of the former members to be again eligible or ineligible as the laws shall direct. Now, this is a clear indication that this is not supposed to be a career job. This is supposed to be in service to the people. This is not supposed to be a career job. And that's why it says they should, at fixed periods, be reduced to a private station. Go back to the private side and return into that body from which they were originally taken. The private side. Okay? This is supposed to be a fundamental principle of our republic. Now, that elections of members to serve as representatives of the people in assembly ought to be free, and that all men having sufficient evidence of permanent common interest with and attachment to the community have the right of suffrage and cannot be taxed or deprived of their property for public uses without their own consent or that of the representatives so elected, nor bound by any law to which they have not, in like manner, assented for the public good. This is the reason why public law does not apply to the people in the private. It's for that which they create. It's the law of creation. Now, here's a fundamental principle of law right here that clearly is missed and has been missed for the last year. That all power of suspending laws or the execution of laws by any authority without consent of the representatives of the people is injurious to their rights and ought not to be exercised. In other words, you can't suspend the laws or the execution of the laws by any authority, even under an emergency. And technically speaking, they're supposed to call the legislature into session, into assembly. Okay? This is the fundamental principle of our form of government. See, what our founders separated there and created was the fact that the executive branch is to execute the law, not make it. So, knowing this and applying this fundamental principle to today, there it is. All right. Now, this is a key one, except for they're missing some verbiage. Well, wait. Yeah. Okay. Number 8, Article the 8th, that in all capital or criminal prosecutions, a man hath a right to demand the cause and nature of his accusation, to be confronted with the accusers and witnesses. Now, we'll break this down a little bit. When we're talking about criminal prosecutions for a man, suits between a man and a man, it can be criminal in nature, but this is the common law. So this also brings into the question of what the hell is public law? What is a public offense? The law is the law. We lay down the law prior to instituting government. This is one of those documents. And the fact is you have the right to confront the accuser and witnesses. Even according to the Bible, we're supposed to have 2 witnesses to the same overt act. It's a maxim of law. So where's the witnesses on these alleged public offense? No, they're doing prosecutions by information. But we've been informed that you failed to use your turn signal. Or, your tags are expired on that commercial motor vehicle. So that probable cause probably had a cause of action. But the problem is these guys are supposed to be under the Department of Transportation, because we're not supposed to have standing armies, right? We'll get to that down here in a minute. To call for evidence in his favor. Now, we call that a Brady violation now. Brady versus Maryland. Denial of exculpatory evidence, evidence that's in your favor. If they deny that, that's a denial of exculpatory evidence and violates the law right here. And to a speedy trial by an impartial jury of 12 men of his vicinage. It's missing the 12 men. They've hidden it. They've taken it out of here. But I've got it in my my book there, The Annals of America. Yeah. So this is the key part to how a trial by jury is supposed to work. Of all 12 men, without whose unanimous consent he cannot be found guilty. It does not say that the innocent has to prove he's innocent. It is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which is all 12 men. If there is one man out of the 12 that is just not quite convinced of your guilt, that is an acquittal. There is no such thing as a hung jury. One shot, one time, not twice, not thrice, once. And if you don't get unanimous consent of all 12 for a finding of guilt, you lose. Nor can he be compelled to give evidence against himself. Well, that's the Fifth Amendment, right? The right to remain silent. And you cannot compel a man to give up evidence against himself. Then we also have that no man be deprived of his liberty except by the law of the land or the judgment of his peers. Well, you'd have to get all 12 men to do that. So this is precisely right here. Like we bring in like parental rights, right? Can't be depriving those rights without following the law of the land and a trial by jury. Okay, so, and of course, this one sounds familiar, right? That excessive bail ought not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. It sound about like the Eighth Amendment there? Sure does. Now, pay attention to this one. That general warrants, whereby any officer or messenger may be commanded to search suspected places without evidence of a fact committed, or to seize any person or persons not named or whose offense is not particularly described and supported by evidence, are grievous and oppressive and ought not to be granted. And here we go again. That in controversies respecting property and in suits between man and man, the ancient trial by jury is preferable to any other and ought to be held sacred. Okay, notice it talks about the ancient trial by jury. So in 1776, they're talking about the ancient right to a trial by jury. So what we're actually talking about goes back to the Aziz of Clarendon of 1166. Now here's another one, fundamental principle here. That the freedom of the press is one of the greatest bulwarks of liberty and can never be restrained but by despotic governments. So, Facebook and YouTube, are you paying attention? How about Ada County Court? Oh, you can't record in here. You can't run a camera. Yes, I can. It's one of the greatest bulwarks of liberty, can never be restrained but by despotic governments. Now, this is kind of appropriate right now, right? That a well-regulated militia, not a police force, composed of the body of the people. This is the reason why it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Because right here, laying down the law of the nation, composed of the body of the people trained to arms, is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. That standing armies in time of peace should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that in all cases, all of them, not some of them, but all of them, the military should be under strict subordination to and be governed by the civil power, by the people. Now, where does it say police in there? It doesn't. In fact, it says no standing armies. Because again, what's an army? Arm ye, to arm you, an armed body of men. And the only thing that we're supposed to have is a militia, which is the military when in service to the people. And it's supposed to be subordinate to, strict subordinate. Now, again, this is key right now, where we're at right now. What is one of the primary functions of the military? To defend this nation, all American, from foreign invasion and domestic violence. That is the purpose of the military. It is not to be used for anything else, because there is no consent given to use our military for anything else but defense of this nation called America. Okay? So, let's move on to the next one. That the people have a right to uniform government, and therefore that no government separate from or independent of the government of Virginia ought to be erected or established within the limits thereof. Now remember, at this particular time, Virginia actually encompassed, aside from Virginia itself, what we consider today, 6 other colonies. But again, this right here is the law of the nation being laid down as our ideology. Let's see, that no free government or the blessings of liberty. Wait, free government, blessings of liberty, free government can be preserved to any people, but by a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue, and by frequent reoccurrence to fundamental principles. That's what we're doing here tonight, folks. Some more of them fundamental principles. And here comes the big one. that religion, or the duty which we owe to our Creator, and the manner of discharging it, that duty and religion, can be directed by reason and conviction. Oh, wait, logic and reason, not by force or violence. And therefore, all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience. That is the liberty of conscience, the right to think for ourselves. Go back to Friday and watch that when I went over the law of nature. And that it is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity towards each other. Adopted unanimously June 12, 1776 at the Virginia Convention of Delegates, drafted by Mr. George Mason. Now, they got rid of the citation that was under here, like it is over here, 7S Thorpe, right there. Federal and State Constitution, House Doc number 3575, 59th Congress. That used to be down here, underneath this, not too long ago. Maybe 3 years ago it used to be there, maybe 4. But see, because they fundamentally altered this and they got rid of the 12 men, impartial jury of 12 men of his vicinage, they can't properly cite this. They can't put that there because this is not a true, accurate rendition. And I'm telling you right now, it did at one time say 12. But it got, I don't know, it got disappeared out of there after I started putting it out on the show. So there's the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Aside from the mistakes, we'll call it a clerical mistake or error. Somebody made an error over there on Avalon. Now, there's all sorts of these variant text of the plan. This is New Jersey. Here's the Virginia plan. Let's see, where is the treaties of peace, Thomas Jefferson's papers. I mean, there's definitely lots of reading here. Oh, I wonder what this is. Oh, wait, concerning slavery, 1794, 1800, 1803. I'll just keep showing this every time. Okay, so here we go. Slavery, imagine that. Being abolished back then. Where is the Lee's resolution? Here we go. Now, see, look at that. This source happens to be there. But they couldn't put the source there on the other one because they altered it. So this is the Lee's resolutions. Resolution introduced in the Continental Congress by Richard Henry Lee, Virginia, proposed a Declaration of Independence, June 7, 1776 here. Resolved that the United Colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain, is and ought to be totally dissolved. Totally. That is expedient forthwith to take the most effectual measures for forming foreign alliances, that a plan of confederation be prepared and transmitted to the respective colonies for their consideration and approbation. Period. So, what do we got going on here? This is the separation from Great Britain, not the Declaration of Independence. That was declaring what? Laying down the law, more of the law of this nation, right? Because again, this is what they were creating then. This was the document right here that just went, we're breaking ties with Great Britain. Right here. This is a pivotal document in history. This is when we said, all right, Great Britain and your monarchy form of government, kick rocks. We're done. We've had enough. It only took from 1215 to 1776 to get this done. But hey, we got her done, right? So now that we know, and then of course I've gone over the Virginia Declaration or Virginia Constitution, but here's a good read, right? Return to some of these fundamental principles of law. I think this is very appropriate for today, and then I'm going to go into a really powerful document, declaration. Go Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. March 23rd, 1775. Okay. No man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. Now, keep in mind at this particular point in time, they've already been 1774, the First Continental Congress. They just assembled it. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do opinions of a character very opposite to theirs. Because see, there were certain colonies back then that weren't too keen on separating from the monarchy. It's like weaning from mommy. Like, well, I don't want to leave. I don't want to give up the milk. Well, the problem is the milk was being stolen and the people were getting tired of it. So they had some different opinions back then, but they came around. I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense, I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and of an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. What do you think they were talking about there? Slavery, our walk with God, being separate from government, control. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? What kind of smile there? Trust is not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Because see, at this time they'd already have done that before. They'd even laid down arms and been stabbed in the back as they walked away. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with those warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. There are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array, if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. Why do you think we've made it a fundamental principle of no standing armies? They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose to them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive others. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. Hint, hint. There is a storm coming, folks. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves from the throne and have implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain, after these things, we may indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve and violate those estimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat it, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left to us. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on the backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make a proper use of those means which the God of nature hath placed in our power. The millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir. Let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is their life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. I think that's very appropriate for today. Okay? So, knowing this speech, did that inspire anybody? Now, let's see if we can find. Huh. Wonder if it's in declarations. Aha. Now, this is July 6, 1775. Just a few months after Patrick Henry. Now, this is the declaration of the causes and necessity of taking up arms. Now met in Congress at Philadelphia. If it was possible for men who exercise their reason to believe that the divine author of our existence intended a part of the human race to hold an absolute property in and an unbounded power over others, marked out by his infinite goodness and wisdom, as the objects of a legal domination never rightfully resistible, however severe and oppressive the inhabitants of these colonies might at least require from the Parliament of Great Britain, here we go, some evidence that this dreadful authority over them has been granted to that body. Can you point to that emolument and grunt, please? Because I can't seem to find that power, but a reverence for our Creator, principles of humanity, and the dictates of common sense. Let me reiterate that. And the dictates of common sense must convince all those who reflect upon the subject that government was instituted to promote the welfare of mankind and ought to be administered for the attainment of that end. And they are supposed to be defending all things that may cause injury, loss, or harm to the people. That's the promoting the welfare of mankind. Making sure that no manufacturer manufactures anything that may cause injury or harm to the people. Picking up what I'm laying down, folks? What I'm talking about here is defense. What's our military for? Because I think that's coming. I'm pretty darn sure of it. The legislature of Great Britain, however, for a power not only unjustifiable, but which they know to be peculiarly reprobated by the very constitution of that kingdom, and desperate of success in any mode of contest, where regard should be had to truth, law, or right, have at length, deserting those, attempted to effect their cruel and impolitic purpose of enslaving these colonies by violence, and have thereby rendered it necessary for us to close with their last appeal from reason to arms. Yet, however blinded that assembly may be by their intemperate rage for unlimited domination, so to cite justice and the opinion of mankind, we esteem ourselves bound by obligations of respect to the rest of the world to make known the justice of our cause. What is our cause? Our forefathers, inhabitants of the island of Great Britain, left their native land to seek on these shores a residence for civil and religious freedom. You cannot make it any more clear than that, but there's other documents that do. So I'm going to reread that again. Our forefathers. Now, this is in 1775, folks. He's talking about their forefathers, inhabitants of the island of Great Britain. They left their native land to seek on these shores a residence for civil and religious freedom. At the expense of their blood, at the hazard of their fortunes, without the least charge to the country from which they removed, by unceasing labor and an unconquerable spirit, they effected settlements in the distant and unhospitable wilds of America, then filled with numerous and warlike barbarians. Societies or governments, vested with perfect legislatures, were formed under their charters from the crown, and a harmonious intercourse was established between the colonies and the kingdom from which they derived their origin. The mutual benefits of this union became in a short time so extraordinary as to excite astonishment. It is universally confessed that the amazing increase of wealth, strength, and navigation of the realm arose from this source. And the minister who so wisely and successfully directed the measures of Great Britain in the late war publicly declared that these colonies enabled her to triumph over her enemies. Now, wait a minute. It was publicly declared that these colonies over here enabled Great Britain to triumph over her enemies. Towards the conclusion of that war, it pleased our sovereign to make a change in his councils. Uh-oh. Now, from that fatal moment, the affairs of the British Empire began to fall into confusion, and gradually sliding from the summit of glorious prosperity to which they had been advanced by the virtues and abilities of one man, are at length distracted by the convulsions that now shake it to its deepest foundations. The new ministry, finding the brave foes of Britain, though frequently defeated, yet still contending, took up the unfortunate idea of granting them a hasty peace and then subduing her faithful friends. Like I said, they did this before. Oh, we'll do peace. We'll do peace. We'll do peace. And turn around and stab them in the frickin' back. Does this sound like a great reset to you? Again, in history? Because it is. And they fought against it. Now, these devoted colonies were judged to be in such a state of being, as to present victories without bloodshed, and all the easy emoluments of statuable plunder, the uninterrupted tenure of their peaceable and respectful behavior from the beginning of colonization, their dutiful, zealous, and useful services during the war, though so recently and amply acknowledged in the most honorable manner by His Majesty, by the late King, and by Parliament, could not save them from the mediated innovations. Parliament was influenced to adopt the pernicious project and assuming a new power over them. What's the new power that we're talking about right here, right now? Police forces. Having the course of 11 years, given such, see, here we talk about that 11 years again, 10 years, 11 years. This ties in to the speech from Patrick Henry. Given such decisive specimens of the spirit and consequences attending this power, as to leave no doubt concerning the effects of acquiescence under it. No, we don't consent to this crap. They have undertaken to give and grant our money without our consent. Huh. Well, let's send millions and billions of dollars to foreign countries and nations. No. Where's that in the Constitution? It's not there. You're exercising a power that's not there. It's supposed to be our money, our taxpayer dollars. Okay. Statutes. Now pay attention, folks. Oh, wait. They have undertaken to give and grant our money without our consent, though we have ever exercised an exclusive right to dispose of our own property. Statutes have been passed for extending the jurisdiction of courts of admiralty and vice admiralty beyond their ancient limits. Huh. This was a cause and necessity for taking up arms. Listen to these carefully. For depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury, not jury trial. It's a trial by jury. And in our form of government, the jury has the power to nullify those statutes that have been unlawfully passed. But you've stripped us of that power. You've stripped us of that right. Our right to a republican form of government, where the power resides in the people to alter, reform, or abolish anything a statute at any time we deem it necessary. That's right. It's called jury nullification. We had at one point in time the right to put the statute on trial, whether it was lawful or not, whether we liked it or not. That was a power retained by the people to maintain our republic. Not, oh, well, you got to do an initiative and you got to do a recall. Or no, I don't think so. The way our form of government was set up is so that we could nullify your fraudulent statutes right now. No waiting, no letting you guys decide. Well, you're the ones that made it. Of course, you're not going to get rid of it. Okay. Not only that, what about the trial by jury, right? Not supposed to be depriving parental rights without a trial by jury. It's a fundamental right. It's a private right. So it's supposed to go through a trial by jury. But no, we're gonna go into these star chambers, and you don't have a right to a trial by jury in here. We're gonna go ahead and just arbitrarily deprive you of your rights, like a domestic violence protection order, which is all fraud. Because domestic violence is about internal insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the Constitution. Okay? I see you. I know. It's coming. We're working on it. We do need to file complaints, criminal complaints on any bad actors. uscourts.gov, Form A091. So let's finish this, and we'll call it a night. Statutes have been passed for extending the jurisdiction of courts of admiralty and vice admiralty beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the customary stealable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property. Life. Our children are our life blood. And our rights are our property. Our children are not our property. The rights are our property. For suspending the legislature of one of the colonies, for interdicting all commerce to the capital of another. Driver's license. Oh, everybody has to. That's interdicting all commerce onto the people. Hale versus Hinkle, we have the right to be secure in the private because we have no duty to the state or to our neighbors to open our books and papers for inspection on the suit of the state. We're not in the public. Okay, so and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter and secured by acts of its own legislature solemnly confirmed by the crown, for exempting the murderers of colonists from legal trial and in effect from punishment, for erecting in a neighboring province acquired by the joint arms of Great Britain and America a despotism dangerous to our very existence, and for quartering soldiers upon the colonists in time of profound peace. It has also been resolved in Parliament that colonists charged with committing certain offenses shall be transported to England to be tried. But why should we enumerate our injuries in detail? By one statute, it is declared the Parliament can, of right, make laws to bind us in all cases whatsoever. This is why we stripped them of the power to make law in our form of government. Right there. You make public law that applies to all those things in the public. And I'm not talking about outside. We're talking about in law versus at law. Private and a public servant is in the public. Okay? There is a clear distinction. And Hale versus Hinkle makes it a little bit clearer. What is to defend us against so enormous, so unlimited a power? Not a single man of those who assume it is chosen by us. How about like the directors of Department of Health and Welfare? Are they chosen by us? They elected by us? Nope. How about these district health districts, boards of health, whatever? Are they elected by us? Nope. How about the WHO? How about the CDC? Are they elected by us? Who the hell are they to be making decisions for us here in America? Oh, but it's our name. We're the center for. Yeah. Probably should watch what I say here. But who are they? They're not elected by us. Where in the Constitution does that power been delegated? Can't seem to find that power. That's right. Public meaning public servants. Those that have a stipend attached to some elected office or appointed into a position of public trust under an elected official, or those that are being subsidized by taxpayer dollars. For example, John Doe Paving Company. This is what a bill is. It's to pay John Doe Paving Company to pave the roads. It might be a privately owned business, but the second they enter into the contract to receive a subsidy to pave the roads, they now are in the public. And they're required to be bound by the Constitution and our rights to not violate them. So let's finish this up here. Let's see. Not a single man, no man, set of men entitled separate emoluments. Yeah. Is chosen by us or subject to our control or influence. But on the contrary, they are all of them exempt from the operation of such laws. Wait a minute. Wait. Isn't that like Congress and making the Obamacare for everybody, but except for them? Or any of the other crap that they make? Well, it doesn't apply to them. and an American revenue, if not diverted from the ostensible purposes for which it is raised, would actually lighten their own burdens in proportion. Imagine that. As they would increase ours. Huh, that's right. So basically it's, oh, well, you say you're taxing us for these purposes for which it was raised, and then you put it in your own frickin' pockets to lessen their own burdens and increase ours. Oh, well, we'll just go ahead and give ourselves a raise. Yeah, we deserve a raise. What you do is you create a situation where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer by an evil design. Now, we for 10 years incessantly and ineffectually besieged the throne as supplicants. We reasoned, we remonstrated with Parliament, and in the most mild and decent language. I'll end it there for tonight. But you get the idea of history, why they declared the causes and necessity of taking up arms. And this one paragraph right here really, really just hammers it out. Some sort of a pernicious project, would that be like a great reset? It's happened before, folks. It's nothing new. It ain't new to me. Not in my studies of history of law. What is that? Right there. All right. So, all right. So, I hope that was inspiring tonight and a reflection of some fundamental principles that we need to return to. And I hope it inspires people to start filing criminal complaints. Because fundamentally and principally, we know from history now that for the most part, a petition or remonstrance is just not going to cut it. And things are set up right now. And it's coming. Make no mistake, it is coming. Mass arrests, military tribunals. So, do you want to be a part of that? You want to be a part of taking down the corruption? Start studying, figure out how to file these criminal complaints. Form A091. Okay. uscourts.gov. And not only that, we take them down there and we just drop them off. Okay. They're not going to allow us to go in front of a magistrate and lay the complaint and swear in, give our little testimony of our statements of facts, and then sign off on the criminal complaint. That's how it's supposed to work. But that's not how it's going to work right now. Because again, they really don't want us to know that this has been made available to us. Okay? But I'm here to tell you. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to inform you. We need to start telling on these bad actors. Start little. Start with your own case. Clear, concise statements of facts of who did what, where, and when. What was the conduct? What did they do? That's it. That is the entire key to the criminal complaint. Okay? So, if you want to learn a little bit more in the private, get on Patreon. Wednesday night workshop. Okay? Obviously, I share a little bit more stuff over there than I can share here. Because I know it's like on the verge on YouTube. So I may end up on Rumble and BitChute before long. I don't know. So want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks for the love and the kindness and the shares and the prayers and the thumbs up, subscriptions on YouTube, thumbs up on YouTube. If you'd like to help support what we're doing, my team and I, send that funny money, any of that weird doll hair stuff, over to the office at 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho 83704. For those of you on Facebook, you can go right to my Facebook page that you're watching from right now, and that address is right there. Now, you want to do a little bit of different kind of support, monthly support over there, get on Patreon. Patreon/Kirk's Law Corner, or patreon.com/Kirk's Law Corner. And Wednesday night workshops, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, when we start. And those of you that are in the tier 4 need to start getting on these one-on-ones with you. So I've already sent out a couple messages, but it's pretty hard to do after 6 p.m. at night when I'm already 3 nights a week right here. But hey, we'll make something work. All right. So I appreciate all the new people over there on Patreon. It's growing. It's growing beautifully, and I love the fact that these people are wanting to be there. They really, truly want to learn, and we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. And I, again, want to thank my team and those behind the scenes over here and over there. And yeah. Start focusing on the criminal complaint, guys. Forget the lawsuit and common law and maritime law. It's just a criminal complaint. Use the form. Use Title 18 United States Code for their public offenses. I've showed that before now. And do your statement of facts. Okay? Tell on these little bullies. They're nothing but a bunch of schoolyard bullies that need to be told on. Okay? So, the more of us we get doing it, the better off we're going to be and the faster it's going to happen. And yes, I know. I'm working on it. It's quite an undertaking for what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to happen. It's coming. Okay? Much love, everybody. Have a wonderful night. And those patrons over there, we'll see on Patreon Wednesday night. For the newbies, I'll send you out the link to the Zoom meeting. Everybody else should already have the link to the Zoom meeting in your private messages. It may have gone to an email as well, but get on to Patreon and check your messages if you're not aware of that, or your email. I sent that out. I've sent it out a couple of times to everybody, so except for the new ones. So um, we'll see you Wednesday night on Wednesday night workshop, and then back here on Friday night. Friday night fun night. Okay. So much love, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and God bless. Good night, everybody.